So beginning in the late 80s and early 90s, we began seeing corporate management reviews, which is more commonly known as flash sailing audits. And what this did was that it searched for barriers that women and minorities face for the executive level positions. And it also allowed the OFCCP to analyze compensation comparing men and women and whites and minorities in similarly situated jobs to see if there was a meaningful difference. However, the problem with this is that there is no clear definition of meaningful difference, and there were no clear direction from the Federal Contract Compliance Manual or regional directives. And as a result, it had very few findings of systemic discrimination. So moving forward to 1992, which is the birth of the DuBray analysis. And during an audit with the Fairfax Hospital, Joseph DuBray, who was the regional director of the Philadelphia region, asked for not only executive data, but for non-executives at levels as well. He believes that when people in the same pay grade are grouped together, they should be similar enough so that they can be analyzed. He would then try to find the median salary for men and women and whites and minorities in each pay grade and compare them to each group to see if a meaningful difference existed. This was a very problematic analysis because there was no standard definition of meaningful difference, and it would change from pay grade to pay grade. And as a result, the Fairfax Hospital had to pay $700,000 in back pay and salary adjustments. So the DuBray analysis was used for a few years until it went under fire in 1997 because a leaked document was leaked to a local ILG meeting, and it outlined the analysis and the methodology of the DuBray. Because prior to this leaked document, people just knew that the DuBray analysis was a way to analyze compensation. They didn't know exactly what that entailed, though. And as a result of this leaked document, it garnered a lot of criticism from the legal community because they believe that just because jobs are grouped together in a pay grade doesn't necessarily mean that they're similar. And since there was no clear definition of meaningful difference, it also meant that any statistical significant testing would not be able to hold up in court. And of course, in reaction to the leaked document, a second document was leaked in defense of the DuBray analysis. It stated that the OFCCP was not held under the standard of the Title VII during an audit, and that they were not required to have a litigation-ready argument since their burden of proof is completely different. It also argued that a conciliation agreement isn't an admittance of guilt. It's just a way to rectify a problem that is found within your company. And as a result to the second leaked document, the OFCCP decided to officially implement the DuBray analysis nationwide, despite the fact that there was still no clear definition of meaningful difference. And now we go on to 1999. The DuBray analysis has been used for a few years, but because of the bullying case and because of the audit that they went through, this is where we really see a transition from the DuBray analysis to a beginning of how we analyze compensation currently. And during 1999, Boeing had an audit and they were found to have pay disparities. But instead of using the DuBray analysis, a partnership was formed with the OFCCP. And through this partnership, Boeing and the OFCCP were able to define similarly situated employee groupings, which were legally acceptable, and it also created reasonable job groupings. And they also decided that they will be using statistical testing to define meaningful difference. And because of the partnership with Boeing and the OFCCP and the new definition of statistical meaningful difference and similarly situated employees, Boeing was able to have 10 conciliation agreements paying out $4.5 million in back pay and salary adjustments using this new way of analyzing compensation. And so moving forward to 2006, throughout this time, it was a little unclear about what would happen with compensation. we didn't know whether or not to use the guidelines that Boeing set up or to use the DuBray analysis because that was still in play. And so in response to this confusion, the OFCCP decided to publish the standards and guidelines of compensation. And what this did was that it outlined that the OFCCP, what the OFCCP expected of contractors and what they would do in compensation. They stated that they would use similarly situated employee groups and that they will be using statistical testing such as multiple regression to identify meaningful difference. And they also expected to have anecdotal evidence to be present to prove that pay disparities and systemic discrimination existed. And while this was going on, the OFCCP still feels as if that it's not a great way to stop systemic discrimination. And so in 2010, they proposed a revision of the standards and guidelines.